This is the muted group theory by Cesar Quevedo Partida and Alice Hong. So some key concepts for this theory would be dominant language, which serves the dominant group because it is created by the dominant group, and the muted group, which is disadvantaged most of the time because they are seen as less articulated, they are ridiculed more, and sometimes are forced to create their own language because they have to conform to the dominant language of the group. In terms of power and communication, minority groups are silenced, and that is a consequence of unequal distribution of power. And silencing only occurs when the culture or community allows it to. It's a understanding of who holds the power and who doesn't. Silencing in everyday life is a result of bystanders not speaking up because they are encouraged to speak up. They typically consist of lower power groups in society, like women, children, poor, people of color. That's mostly the area that are silenced more than others. And for the question, have you ever felt marginalized or muted in a conversation, classroom, or online space? What did that feel like, and how did you respond?
Theory was developed by Charles Clay Murray. The theory explains that language is shaped by dominant groups in society. This marginalizes and mutes the voices of less powerful people or groups. This theory was developed in the 1970s. When the muted group theory was created, it was during a time of great gender imbalance. The theory was meant to highlight the fact that women didn't have a voice in society. As a result of the theory, the minority struggles with expressing themselves. Can you guys think of a more modern and current muted group? Muted group theory accentuates problems with status and suggests different solutions to simplify them. Here are some assumptions of the muted group theory. Assumption number 1. Women perceive the world differently than men because women's and men's different experiences and activities rooted in the division of labor. Number 2. Because of their political dominance, men's system of perception is dominant, impeding the free expression of women's alternative models of the world. The last one. In order to participate in society, women must transform their own models in terms of the received male system of expression. Of the muted group theory. Strength number 1. Highlights power imbalances. It brings attention to how dominant groups shape language and marginalize or mute others, especially women and minorities. Encourages social change, promotes awareness and action toward more inclusive language and communication practices. This can apply to all contexts. Useful in analyzing media, politics, education, and everyday conversation where marginalized voices are silenced or misrepresented. This empowers muted or marginalized groups. This validates the lived experiences of those who feel unheard or misunderstood in dominant discourses. This emphasizes how power is expressed through language. In the past, men typically had more power than women in all political, economical, and educational situations. Thus, they were the dominant group that sets the norms for society and women to follow. Now, here are some weaknesses of the theory. Weakness number 1. Overgeneralization. This theory tends to group people too broadly. Example, all women versus all men. ignoring individual differences and intersectionality. Number 2, lack of empirical evidence. Lacks strong quantitative support. Much of the theory is based on observation and qualitative data. Number 3, binary focus. Often frames the issue in a binary. Example is men versus women, which may exclude non-binary or other gender identities. Number 4, neglects change over time. This theory doesn't fully account for how language and power dynamics can shift and evolve in modern societies. And the final weakness is this theory can support victimizing. This theory can portray marginalized groups as passive victims, rather than recognizing their agency or ability to resist and reshape language over time.
So some key terms for this theory is the dominant group, which is the social group that holds the most power in society. They are typically the ones that create the societal norms and communication that is widely accepted. And the muted group is the group that is undervalued in society. They are the ones that have the most disadvantages and are forced to adapt. Silencing is making it hard or forcing the other group, typically the muted group, to be unable to express themselves. Uh, that is because the dominant group has set the terms. And language is a method of communication that can be conveyed through speech, writing, or gestures, used by a community or anyone. This is typically for the muted group as well. Gatekeeping, which is controlling what language, communication, topics, and views are allowed, that is for the dominant group. And translation is the muted group that has to adapt their language to fit the societal norms that the dominant group has set. And for the artifact, I have chosen The Handmaid's Tale, which is an example of a dystopian muted group. A summary is in a dystopian world called Gilead, a religious authoritarian regime dominates society and leaves women with no rights. They are unable to read, write, work, or have any freedom to do as they say and please. Due to illness and pollution, many citizens cannot have children anymore. Thus, the government forces fertile women to become surrogates for specifically wealthy, powerful couples. And the dictatorship in Gilead applies language to remove women of their identity, voice, and expression. They lose their original names and are instead reclaimed as property of men. There's a hierarchy of women based on how useful they are to the men and state, the top being like the officers who lead it, and the bottom being the handmaidens. And this is an example of linguistic muting because the women lose their original identity and are forced to accept new one that have been assigned to them by the men. And women are prohibited from reading or writing anything, even something as simple as reading a stop sign or a store sign or anything even small of that matter is illegal. Their speech is limited only to phrases that are approved, such as religious statements like he is always watching or Bible verses. And this is an example of how the dominant group controls the languages. This is a muted group theory, and thank you for watching.